Welcome to the Beyond the Vines podcast, where I interview local business owners in Sonoma County to highlight small business and grow our community. I'm your host, Amy Ahlers, a mom, realtor, and Sonoma County native, and I'm excited to connect you to some amazing people in this beautiful area that we call home.
Hi, welcome to a really fun episode today. We are kind of merging forces with multiple podcasts here today, which is really exciting, and we have a fabulous guest, Dominic Dotto. So I am Amy Ahlers. I'm here to introduce Dominic today. The Dotto Company has become a beacon of exceptional quality service in Marin County. Founded by Dominic Dotto, the company has evolved into one of the most respected and sought-after firms in custom home building within the North Bay area. Known for its highly personalized and bespoke approach, the Dotto Company excels in fostering strong client relationships and delivering exceptional craftsmanship. Dominic's commitment to innovation and client satisfaction ensures that every project is a seamless and enjoyable experience from start to finish. Dotto Construction emphasizes on net zero sustainable home building and creates a foundational relationship between the client, architect, designer, and builder. And with that, welcome, Dominic.
Thank you. That was really nice to introduce me. And that pretty much sums up everything.
Yep, it's done. No, but I'm not. So
Wonderful.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm
yeah,
excited.
Thank you so much for telling me.
Talk to all you about the process, what it's like out there, what we're seeing, how these projects are going, and just overall, construction and real estate.
Yep. Yeah, no, let's jump into it. I'm Sean Payne, by the way. I'm Isaiah Chas. And we met you, a few weeks ago, kind of got connected through a referral that way.
Yeah.
And kind of started, you told us about your product and what you want to do up here, that you're originally from Marin and that you recently moved up here to the Petaluma area, and you want to bring your kind of vision of what you want to build here up here that way. So kind of let's jump into it, your background. Like, tell us, how this happened, how'd you get to this point? Who are you? What is
Well, as a child, I've always wanted to build custom homes. It's just kind of been in me. And I found as I grew up and worked for different firms and worked in the field and really saw how things went and what the expectation was in construction, it was that typical, these are how projects go. They're always over budget. They always go longer than they say. The relationship at the end is they want to kill each other almost. So I just saw that old school mentality of how construction would go and how there was a lack of, technology approach, just efficiencies, quality control, relationships. Like that was the biggest thing for me. It was like, why can't you have a good relationship? But what really sets it apart? Why is this happening? It comes down to communication and the process and the service, right?
Sure.
And as so I kind of divulged into that, but where I led was that was my initiative was, okay, I love construction. I want to build custom homes and I want to build the best homes out there, but also how can I provide a better service? And so I, was in construction, and then I worked for a few firms, and then after that, I decided to take off and start my own company, which was, I had a house here in Petaluma that I bought like a year before I quit my job, and went out on my own, and that was like
a lot of risk,
scariest thing I've ever had. Yeah, one of the every day, just that feeling of not having, when you go, you have that sense of like I have a place to go.
But we know, sure, we know. Yeah.
If no one calls you tomorrow, your mortgage is still due the next month.
Yeah.
So it was like, a couple $1,000 in the bank account. And I'm honest with people because the reality is it's like, it is hard. It's not easy and it's scary. And, you don't have health insurance. You kind of go out on this whole, process and you all you have is what you believe in and what you want to achieve, and so you have to stick with that. And as that went, we got more projects, and we kept growing. And I remember one day, it was like a year and a half into doing this on my own, I finally felt like that sense of security. Like there was actually, like we had an office that was probably half of this space, and there's 3 people with we had soundboards to block each other off so we could be on the phone and talk. And that's like how it all developed. And it was like, a small little office that was like a couple $100 a month to now we have 15, 16 employees, and it's really blown up. So it's just having that vision and that fire and mindset, because it is hard. It's probably one of the hardest things I feel like so far I've experienced and gone through. But if I could do it again, I always would continue to do it because it's what I love.
Right.
And once you find something you love, it's like completely worth it. So that's how that all started. But yeah, as we grew, we really stuck with I stuck with my core of like quality, service, and product. And the biggest thing too is like you go to a Four Seasons or a resort, right? It's always the same. Like
right.
You're paying a lot, but you're getting a specific service, and it's always the same.
Right.
So I'm like, why is it one contractor's like this, another contractor's like that, and it's all over the board, right? And so I'm like, how do I make an internal process and company feel like a white glove service where the client actually feels like they're getting that service? And it took years and years to develop and learn, and you kind of take whatever jobs you can, and as you grow, you really can start achieving the direction you want to go. And for us, it's not about you have projects that go out to bid, right? So like the owner and architect will spend a lot of time together designing a house, and they won't get a contractor involved until after. And now it goes, you've spent the time to, with the architect, drawing the whole thing. You get a whole permit set together, you send it to the city, and what really happens is then they go back, okay, we'll send this out to bid to 6 contractors, right? So now you realized, oh shoot, the numbers are coming back and we can't afford this.
Right.
Well, let's take the lowest bid. Let's scrape the finishes.
Right.
And then what happens, you take the lowest bid, they get in the door, they change order you, you're back to square one. So the biggest philosophy for us is we do pre-con. So we work with the architects and designers. We get brought in and beginning development of the schematic, and we help steer the project. So like, okay, you're at $1,200 a square foot. Oh, well, I want to get down to $9.
Right.
Okay, well, we have to cut some stuff back, and we should reduce square footage. And now's the time, because you haven't spent the architect, engineer, civil, all the calculations.
You're not cutting corners. You're just changing the...
You change, and you still get because everyone goes there for aesthetic, right?
Right.
You don't design a house to be like, oh, I want this big house, but I want the shittiest finishes.
Right.
Or just the crappiest stuff, right? So you really start with like, I have this look of this office or rooms that I want, and then so you're able to achieve that, but maybe you just reduce the square footage. Maybe offset some structural stuff that, you can't have that whole glass wall, but let's divide it up a little bit, and we're able to save you some money. So that process has been super helpful. So that's kind of our philosophy, and versus, trying to just get the cheapest right at the door, because also the relationship, it all comes back to that. So how do you have a good relationship? You're transparent from the beginning. You talk to them about like, hey, this is over your budget.
Right.
I don't want you to say it's this, and then you get a change order down the road. Let's figure out to make it work for your budget.
Right.
And even then, we'll take our client's budget, say it's $2-3 million, and then we go, okay, well, let's take 10% out of that, so there's a fluff, and then let's get to that number.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always like this mysterious, oh, I don't want to tell the contractor my number because he's just going to jack it up.
Right.
And you're like, and I've told clients like, I don't care. I just want to tell you if you're wasting your time or not.
Right.
Because if you're like, oh yeah, $500 a square foot, I'm just going to tell you, no,
Sure.
we're not the firm for you. There might be other people out there, but this is the process and the service, and so it's been going the way we want it. And I think we find that every project we have a really good relationship with the client. There's that transparency, that trust, the process, and we find the outcomes are better when it's presented that way in the beginning.
Right.
At what point did you walk in? You mentioned you're starting a small office. You have the 16 employees. At what point did you walk in? You're like, wow, this really came together.
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably we're on year 6 now since I've started. So I would say year 4, year 5, like really like within the last year or two, it really is like honed into the type of projects we want, the quality, the clientele, as well as the team. It's the hardest finding a team of really good employees, especially when you're a small firm. Everybody wants to go to a name that they know. They know, like, well, yeah, I'm in a good job there. I've been around forever. Versus, me, we're small, and well, I don't want to take the risk. And so it took a while. You come up, you get health insurance, you get all the competitive stuff. Then you got to fork up the dollars to afford some of these people, because you're only as good as the people you put on the project, right? We could have a philosophy of how we want it done, but if we don't have solid people out there, then it's a waste of time. So that was the biggest challenge, was getting to that point where I was recognizable enough to people who would leave our competitors and come to us because they felt that that was a secure, position.
Sure.
Yeah, so that was our big turning point.
And then just getting back to what you previously said, it sounded like you've improved the experience of your client by early communication and setting early expectations that way, and not coming into the project, like again, if you set the expectations up front, then everyone knows what's going on. It's important for you to be there at the beginning rather than kind of like picking up the pieces like 70% of the project or something like that.
Yeah, that's critical, just because if you help develop the project in a pre-con, and what we'll do is we'll get the client into a pre-construction agreement.
Right.
And what it does is it puts a little skin in the game for both of us, right? So they have a not to exceed, say, $5,000 I'm going to spend on your time, and we'll track the time we spend in revising, looking at different pricing, going, answering a million questions, going through that whole process, right? And then at the end of it, they want to send it out to bid and not work with us. That's okay. Then, I got paid for my time.
Sure.
They got a service.
Right.
If they do go with us, then we just credit that into the project.
Right.
We'll get, because then it's kind of, he tried to be like, okay, well, if we're getting the project with you, I'm not going to nickel and dime you. But I've had times where I've helped a bunch and then just, okay, got everything I needed. Okay, bye. So
No.
try to value for our information is worth something. So
Sure.
we try to charge for that. But it's a win-win, I feel. That's, at the end of the day, I've learned, is just trying to create win-wins for everybody.
Right.
And we both get something out of it, and it helps the project, and versus just getting a set of plans that aren't designed and aren't drawn out. And at the end, there's two ways. There's contractors who just get the set of plans, right? There's a permit set.
Right.
The set isn't 100% detailed. It's usually like 60 to 80%. There's still a lot of stuff. Our experience as builders, we know how things go together. We know, this isn't in the plans, but this is what they want. So from A to Z how to get there. But there's other contractors who'll go, okay, well, it's not in the plans. I'm only bidding what's in the plans. So I'm apples to apples with every other contractor bidding.
Right.
And that's fair. But then now you're misleading the project and the client, which will ultimately result in a bad relationship.
Sure.
Right. So for us, it's like, I don't really care for hire. We know how to build this. We know what needs to be involved. We're not going to, we're going to use the plans as the end result, but we also want to provide everything. It's that way. Yeah, ours is higher, but it has all this stuff.
Right.
And if they don't want to go with us, that's fine. But at least you're transparent from the front go, versus they feel like, oh, well, now you got me in contract and here comes all the change orders. And that's where you lose that
faith and that. Yeah, exactly. The reason why I want to come back around is that's even so often we see projects that, someone goes out to an architect, designs a project, and then they bid it out.
Yeah.
And they're like, our numbers aren't even close. We can't make it happen. So it's just this even you don't even cut corners because there's not enough corners to cut to make it work sometimes. So this is a situation where you come in and someone has more real expectations. Maybe you can't have the 6,000 square foot home. Maybe you have the 3,500 square foot home or something like that. You can make it work that way,
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense.
It's really cool you have everyone in the house, because it's not super common for a builder to have everyone from, they have the people, right? But they outsource a little bit more. It sounds like you have a lot of those people on your roster already. Do it all in house instead of calling in this person and bringing that person. Not having that team all built.
Yeah, it allows us for that quality control, and especially running the project, they have to run through us. There's certain protocol and service that we provide. With what you're saying is each project, the client has a portal that they log into on our program. They can see daily logs that are updated every day at 2:00. So they have photos and description. And so they always know what's going on. They have their budget there, their change orders, all of their invoice, everything that's been paid. They have plans. They have action items that we assign to them. So our job too, as the contractor, is like, some owners will say, oh, well, we'll supply the appliances or this or that. And we let that happen sometimes and we're okay with it. But our job also is to make sure they do it. So it's not like, oh, well, you're in charge of that, so sorry you didn't get it in time. It's
Right.
Like, no. You're in charge of that. But at our OAC meetings, it's like, hey, this needs to be ordered and delivered by this date or we're going to be delayed. And so helping them.
You still got to control it.
Yes. So if you're just like, it'll never come together.
Right.
So somebody has to be in complete control.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
I really admire that you're able to kind of handle like both sides. You've got the skill set for being able to build and all of that, but you've also got the relationships. Those are totally different skills. And I love that you've been able to combine them with your company. I think that definitely sets you apart. Can you walk us a little bit through the design process when you sit down with clients?
Yeah. So they'll come in. Well, how it usually works is sometimes we'll have a client call us out of the blue and we're like, well, we appreciate the call, but we put the cart before the horse in that sense. So let's connect you with an architect that we feel is fit for this project. We'll defer them to the architect is one way. Another way is through the architect or designer. We'll sit down with the client. We'll go through, what my biggest question, because we'll do interviews. So what happens is the architect will say, here's 3 contractors I really like working with. I think are a good fit for your project. So why don't you interview with these 3? Tell us which one you want to do pre-con and start working with on just the budget side. And then we'll go from there. So we'll interview and that's, they'll ask us our process and how we do such things. And I always like to know what their expectations are, right? So some clients have had bad experiences.
Right.
So, I just like to understand like, okay, I know how we run our jobs and how we're supposed to do it, but what are you looking for from us? Like what is it more communication? Is it, okay, I only need an email once a week with a recap. Other than that, don't bug me. Because some of our clients don't have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And so with these meetings and these such, like to be organized as efficient as possible and maintain like, just being organized, maintaining the information that you need answers to move through is huge for them because it's like, they're CEOs or they may be running big corporations and they have a slotted amount of time for their house, which is, you would think you'd have a lot more time for your home, but the reality is a lot of these people don't. Sometimes we have to deal with their homeowner reps for them because they don't have the time. So it's just making sure you're being efficient, you're being communicative, and getting to the point. And so, but yeah, I would say a lot of our clients or prospective clients and such, when they come in, it's just understanding what they're looking for and making sure we're a right fit because we found that some clients are like, look, I just need it done for cheap. It's like, all right, well, I appreciate the transparency, right? That's fine. And there's no hard feelings. Just like if you want the quality, it's, same thing.
Yep.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the trends and innovations you're seeing within like the luxury home market that way that people want?
It's a good question. It's kind of the trends, I would say. Well, we're seeing a lot of indoor outdoor living, right? Like I know that's been a big thing for a while.
Yeah.
But more of like that curated experience. Like, what do you have that sets yours apart that's different than other homes? For some, it's just they want specific features of appliances, electronics, home automation, blind shades, Lutron systems for lighting controls that set moods and things like that. That's a big thing we see. But others just want like the outdoor experience. So like inviting the outdoor inside in that sense of, which is, we've seen a lot, the multi-sliders that are, from wall to wall that go in pockets, just like bocce ball courts outside, pools. Pools have been making a big comeback, I feel like, in the past 5 years or so.
Right.
More people are doing pools, Baja shelves for their kids to hang out on. Just, yeah, I would say outdoor features, fireplaces, tables to sit around, gardens are big. Just having designated landscape, but I would say landscape is a big part of the indoor outdoor living and just like immersing themselves with that. So we're seeing a lot of that, but trend wise, it's kind of funny. It's like, other than, the few odds and ends, it's historically just the same stuff, just better. So like the Lutron system on better to the point where you can control the scenes to a T. And so like having that feature in your home is like a must-have for some of these clients. Having the recessed shades that sit flush into the ceiling is like, those are they're evolving more.
Right.
I would say other, because tiles and slabs and stuff, it comes and goes. Everything's like, what are we trending this year? What's trending next year? But then you have your classics, right? So you'll see some people will follow the trends, and other architects and designers will follow like what is traditional, what is going to stay 10, 15 years from now and still look nice. And that's, your typical marbles, your polished chrome hardware, things like that, where you're finding it's just continuous over the years, and it looks nice.
Did you have like one style that you preferred to build that way, that like at the end product you're like, wow, that looks really cool, or like, yeah, the more modern or the timeless? Personally,
I like the more timeless. I feel like sometimes the modern can get too boxy, and there's not like, you'll see some of the stuff down in LA, and they're just, I always say, just boxes,
very light,
openings and a lot of glass. And that's its own uniqueness to it. There are some, I think, modern stuff that does look really nice. But I enjoy the craftsmanship. I enjoy like seeing actual timber beams, seeing, eaves that aren't just flat with metal on it, something with decorative dovetails that come out, and copper gutters and Spanish tile, and just like actual handcrafted craftsmanship.
Right.
Marble, like real products that are really unique and cool, and take more. I don't know. It's more of a specialty, I find. I would say I would go more craftsman.
Going back to styles, I'd imagine a lot of your clientele is very big in entertaining.
Yeah.
So I would think that most of their design elements are around how they can entertain guests and have a good experience, whether that be outdoor kitchens or the gardens you mentioned, landscape, just trying to get people to enjoy their living space a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I would say living spaces are huge. We're finding that the trend is really, you have your dining. Before, it used to be room by room by room, right? There was walls everywhere. There was drawers.
Right.
It was like, how do we confine every space of this house? And now it's, okay, how do we make every space feel like one? Connect everything so that there's that open flow throughout. So we're seeing that the kitchens, the dining room, TV area, they're all within the realm of each other. Sometimes they're all in a line with each other. They're just broken out by furniture pieces. And we're finding that kind of dictates the room, is like how the furniture is laid out and how it's presented. But that allows everyone, like we're finding that the families can all enjoy and be around, but they all do still like a cozy room.
Right.
So there's always like that off room that we're still finding for like the families, just to, watch a movie and such.
Have you seen like a little reversal since COVID? Because I think we saw that here, where like everyone, just the big open, like how you said it was just divided up by furniture.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden people were like, gosh, I'd really like a little bit more private space, because I think they're more confined to their homes now. And then we saw like a little bit of reversal in trends. We're like, I'll take that little private room over there. It sounds like maybe you've experienced that a little bit in some.
A little bit. I could see what you're saying there. I think there's a mix of that still.
Okay.
Definitely office space is huge. So
right.
I need to have my office. Usually, the owners, either the parents will have both of their offices. The kids will have a playroom. Like there's designated rooms still,
right?
Which are big. But yeah, I think it's not as big as it used to be. Like everything was open. Continuous, but they are
still is. Yeah,
it's still like we're still seeing like the design of stuff is right now trending, which is like that Napa farmhouse feel, right? So like all that's very open, but there are library rooms, there are offices, there's wine rooms that are big. We're seeing kind of like lounges, right? So like speakeasies, things like that. People are starting to incorporate those into their homes of like, okay, can I have a game room here? Like, all right, let's make it feel unique.
Yep.
Right.
It kind of sets it apart. So we're seeing a lot of that too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's been fun. Yeah.
How do sustainability and energy efficiency kind of factor into your builds?
Yeah. It starts with the efficiency of the home, right? So like the performance of it, the insulation value,
Right.
the window value, the heating and cooling system. How is that working in line with the insulation value? So all those kind of come together, but the biggest thing is providing additional insulation. So you insulate the interior cavity of the wall, and then we always like to have exterior insulation. So we'll have another realm of exterior on the outside sheeting of the house, and then from there you have a space which is called an air cavity between the siding, where you could be doing stucco, whatever application, or stonemason, whatever application. We have an air barrier, like a vapor section for moisture, airflow. It kind of breaks that thermal connection point. So whenever you can break that heat or that cooling doesn't transfer into the interior. So that's a big efficiency item, as well as just mold, mildew, anything that gets behind that rain screen basically allows it to come out, weep through the bottom, and separate those. We'll also do spray foam for the roofs, fill the cavities completely. We'll do insulation, a better insulation, which is a rock wool, which is more sustainable than your bats. So we'll do those typically. And just really, we'll do another layer of basically what we do, a better way to explain it. I was going to tell you what it's called, but it's better to explain it. We'll do a blower door test, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we'll get the sheeting on, we'll get everything, the plywood's on, we'll get it to the point where it doesn't have siding, it doesn't have insulation. We'll pressurize the entire house to find out where we have air leaks. Then we'll see, okay, here's our main areas that we need to address. We'll caulk them, we'll fill them, and then we'll go again and do another test. And then we'll get down to a certain parts per minute airflow movement. And then once we're there, that's when we start insulating, closing up. And then it only gets better from that. So that air, allowing air to be trapped in the home is going to produce a better conditioning throughout the day. So if it's really just air loss and thermal break is huge in a home. So especially when you have windows, so we'll back caulk all the windows, we'll put backer rods in there, and then we'll caulk it again. So then even though, because your window opening is always bigger than your window, so it goes in, so you always have that gap there. So instead of just filling it with trim, we put a backer rod in there, we caulk it, we close that off, we caulk all our sills that sit down on the ground, on the concrete, because that's any point where we can find entryway of air that can seep in makes an impact on the efficiency of the house.
Sure.
So this is doing stuff like that. Blower door test is huge. Once you really realize like where your weak points are, where you're losing air and where that thermal expansion is happening, that will dramatically change things.
I've heard of those tests. I've actually never heard of a contractor like talking about it.
Oh, really?
But yeah. So and that's not like a required procedure, is it? Yeah, so that's something that's only people that,
It's just, it's our process, just because I feel like if you're paying, my thing is like, I want you to get what you're paying for.
Right.
So if we're saying we're net zero, we're efficient, we do all these sustainable products and things, and we need to do them.
Right.
And it's our job to make sure that home is airtight as best we can. And then,
how do you identify where it's coming out? Do you have a thermal texture?
We hire a third-party company, so it's not biased, right? Because if we're walking around, it's like, John said it was leaking there, but so they go through. They'll pressurize, like they'll put this zipper on the front door or wherever that point is where they can enter, and then they'll have this machine pressurize and push all this air. walk the house and circle points of pressure, like where they can actually they have a gun reader that actually can tell them the what's called a thermal difference between the materials, and then they also just do a visual check where they can feel the air coming through.
Very cool.
And yeah, so that's fun. It's clients love it.
Right.
It's just, it feels like another step that's part of the quality process.
Yeah, definitely. You know? Yeah. I mean, yeah, I can see, like, I'm a nerd. I've read, multiple papers on the thermal efficiency of home. So I kind of like understand where heat escape and things like that. And that's why I've never actually heard someone do this test. I've heard about these tests. So that's so cool now.
Yeah.
That way.
And then we like to use heat recovery ventilation systems. So, what'll happen is you'll take the temperature, we'll recycle the air. One of them is, the main reason is Sonoma County, this area, we encounter a lot of during the summer fires.
Right.
So how do we keep the air within the home that's already conditioned, already purified, and reuse it for conditioning the house?
Sure.
So it basically takes that and reuses it, refilters it. Kind of like in your car, the button. Yeah, it's like, okay, just retain the air in here and filter it. Don't bring any external.
Sure.
So when you have external, you have to then take that, purify it, condition it,
right,
and then produce it into the house. So when your HRV system, you're taking it within, repurifying it, reconditioning it, and usually it's at the temperature that's pretty similar to what is in the home.
Right.
So it's less energy being used.
Very cool.
So those are unique systems.
Right. Why aren't those used more often?
Expensive. Yeah. So that's where the difference is. Like if and I hate to say the reality is, like, clients, if there's a budget situation, it's like, well, I'd rather reduce the HVAC than take out the model slab. But like, the model slab can always be changed out later. It's it's like on the car, like tires, right?
Right.
Like the motor, the interior, like the main components. You want to spend the money there, and some people don't see the value.
Right.
But others do, and it makes it a lot more fun. Like, we did this one house in Santa Rosa. This architect, Alex Batzier, he's really into, he's out of Berkeley. He's really into sustainability and structures. And that was a lot of fun, that project. It was one of our hardest projects, and we learned a lot, because it's a lot of contractors didn't want to do it because of the complexity and the fact that it's stuff that we don't typically do. But for us, it's like, great, we can learn something new.
Right.
And it's sustainable, which is cool. So one of it was, instead of forced heating and air there, they did hydronic heating, which we're all used to, the floor tubes and produce heat. But then there's Masana has a system. It's called a hydronic ceiling tile system. So it runs water through the tubes in the ceiling, and that conditions the house. It's got dew point sensors throughout, so we can really nerve it. Yeah, right. Yeah. They're like, what are our team's like, what are these? What are we installing? I'm like, I have no idea. But we're going to learn, and like, how do we solve them? Yeah. And that's where it's like, a lot of contractors are like, yeah, no, we're not going to do that. Yeah. And I'm like, well, this is the future.
Right.
How are we going to adapt and change and get better as a contractor if we don't take these challenges? And that's all I've ever done is take risk and learn, and that's how we'll get better. So we did that, and it was hard, but it came out amazing, and the client loves it.
What do the tiles look like?
They're like a metal panel, a 4x6 metal panel with styrofoam in it, and then a plastic tube that kind of routes back and forth. It's flush with it, and then you have to frame the ceiling a certain way. Frame the ceiling, and then you almost have to do like a drop ceiling to accept these panels, so they attach on a layout grid. Is that what they get? No, it just looks like a regular ceiling. So you frame the ceiling higher. You have to design, and that's where it's like you couldn't go into a regular home and add it in. So that's where this starts with, like, designing the house the right way. You can account for that. You can account for because you'll have to do a schematic of laying the whole thing out, how it works, the zoning. You have to have dew point sensors. You kind of go through that whole process, and then you have a whole mechanical room. And a lot of these homes have mechanical rooms.
Right. Yeah.
These systems, and so everything's updated there. But the efficiency is great. The client loves it. It's not like constant cold air blowing in one section and you have a different temperature in the other. It's pretty consistent throughout, and it's almost like radio anywhere. Just the purification. So that just,
Okay.
because eventually the
Especially
hand
in-
gets stale.
Yeah.
So you want it, a purification system, and that's what she'll use. And that helps her because she is asthma. So being up there in Sonoma really affects,
For sure.
so this is a great system, and I loved it. So I always want clients to use it, but it's,
Yeah.
for example, HVAC system's $100,000. This is $200,000. So you spend a lot more, but in the long run, you get your money's worth because of the efficiency.
Sure.
But it's a big dollar price tag.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so, so that was fun. That was very unique. And so we're always interested in those type of projects.
Can it cool a house down as quick as a forced air?
It's a little different. So like if you went into it and it was like
Passive system.
yes, it's kind of like with Radiant, like it takes a minute,
Right.
but it's consistent through the whole house.
Yes.
And it feels a lot different. So it's like, it's not like, oh, it's cold in here, but then I walked over there, it was a little warmer. It's like,
Right.
it's consistent throughout. Yeah, it's really nice.
Are there any other builder or features that you see are going to change in the future, whether that be, you see people building with 3D printers, concrete now. Is there anything technology-wise like that type of heat system that you see coming down the road or that you've started to work with that you didn't see 10 years ago? You guys are a custom builder. You're always going to be doing this stick frame.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it's crazy that we still do that. I think that there's a company I follow and I want to do more work with. They're Bone Structures, Bone, and they were based out of Canada. And they really inspired me because they went to all metal framed homes. They're custom homes. So you can design them with them, and everything's like they come in, it's all pre-cut and assembled and shipped to you, and literally you just put together with.
Sound like the world does construction.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the best one is like, for example, they integrate the HVAC system into the design of it. So it's kind of the same way like what you're saying with the 3D modeling,
Right.
and printing. They're basically doing that in digital format and then shipping it out. So then when it comes in, all the beams that the HVAC's supposed to run through ducting already has cutouts. So you're not having to go back to the engineer saying, oh, we got to cut this beam or head this or change this and engineer and make sure we don't compromise anything. Like it's already engineered with it in there.
Uh-huh.
So the flowways are there, chases, everything.
Oh, that's really
And then you just put it together and it's a lot more efficient.
Yeah, and like I said, I know so much of the world does, prefabs offsite than does it onsite that way.
And that part I feel like could grow within the custom home building because you are still custom building it. It's just the parts are coming with tight. So I feel like the wood is still so old school and it hasn't changed much.
Right.
And the big thing I worry about with construction as we grow is the one that like right now we're meetings with schools and such, talk to kids to try to get them into trades. The issue is we're seeing within this for years, like the biggest thing that's going to happen with construction is we don't have the supply anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's, if you look at anyone's kids, their parents, and you can see it in the generation above them. It's like none of the parents are in the collar trade.
Right.
So then what do you think? They're going to follow what their parents are doing. So eventually you get to a point where you don't have qualified, you have bodies, but you don't have qualified people who know how to build to that level. And it's not just like, oh, frame this. It's like very involved.
Mm-hmm.
And the type of structural drawings, architectural drawings, like those are just hard to find people who know how to read them in the first place, let alone look through that and figure out how these components go together in the real world. Because not always as it's drawn, it will always work. So that's always a 10% factor of like, okay, how do we actually make this in the field? And then that's where we come in with our expertise. So we find that like this, and it's costing us, like it costs me a lot of money to get a superintendent who knows what he's doing and to run your project. So what happens is it gets passed on to the consumer. And so we talk to clients all the time. And they're like, oh, I saw lumber prices are coming down. I saw, inflation's getting better. Like, during the whole COVID time, right?
Yeah.
Everything kind of jacked up, and it did come back down. But I said, the labor will never come down. And if you wait another couple of years, I'm going to have to raise my labor prices just to continue with the market.
Right.
And until we can get kids into trade schools and people taught and brought back up, it's same with cars, maintenance, anything. It's just that blue collar work is now becoming expensive.
Right.
Very expensive.
It is.
Electrician, plumbers, they're over $200 an hour.
Right.
And that's insane.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I think, the biggest driving force is like, yeah, we can digitalize stuff, which I think will help. Even just the field, like they all have iPads. Everything's on a platform for them to look at.
Right.
We're looking at trying to hire this robot to come and draw out our house plan. So we don't have to lay it out and don't screw it up, right? So you can literally 3D print all the walls drawn out with the openings, the sizes, the window size. And so that way you just look at the ground and frame versus having to look at the plans, double check things. And there's things like that are definitely going to make building more efficient.
Right.
I just like what the superintendents and like the people who do the custom craftsmanship work is hard to find. And that's what we're always going to need.
Sure.
And so, like you're saying, it's like as the future develops, we need to either figure out to get people back in school or figure out programs to do craftsman type work.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Because at the end of the day, it's hard to find a robot to like go to a $10 million house from the ground up and be like, okay, this, you do that. It's like somebody needs to do that. And if you're not experienced or qualified, it's like, who's going to do that?
Yep. Yeah, no, definitely. I think that's like our industry as well is like, technology's coming in and replacing some of our tasks, but like there's certain things that you're still going to need someone to like oversee and make sure that like, it can't be automated or a robot can't do as of right now. It doesn't look like in the future that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So kind of like on that note, any advice for aspiring home builders that way or someone young that's listening to this conversation about wanting to get into construction, any advice that way of?
Yeah. I would say the best way to do anything is just hands-on. You have to get in the field. You have to learn by doing it. Like, for me, I didn't do school. I went to high school. I went to college. I didn't like it, and I dropped out. And so for me, I just wanted to actually do the work, hands-on, get the experience. And so I had no college degree. I just, went out on my own and worked. So I would say the hardest part is just getting involved, getting your hands into what you want to do, learning that way, and actually, putting the effort in. It's not easy. Like you can't, like, it's funny. I was talking to these kids one day at school, and we were talking to them, and they're like, "Oh, that must be cool." They said, "Look, if you like, you see nowadays everyone sees real estate, right? They see the nice cars, they see this. Oh, well, I want to be, because we were asking these kids, what do you want to be? And I want to be in real estate. I want to do that. And because they see, this is what they see, right? They look at whatever's flashy, right? And the TV shows. And I said, that's good, but that's 10% of it. If you're okay with that 10% and 90% of working as hard as you can, not having this much freedom, giving up stuff to have that 10% of what you see on TV and stuff, then go for it. But if you want 90% of that and 10% of the other, then you're never going to make it. So it's reality of just getting involved and having that drive. And if you don't have the drive, that's fine. You just can't do it, right? So you really gotta, books are great, school's good. I'm not saying that no one should go to college. Right. I say if you want to learn, the best way is to go into the field.
Sure.
That's going to teach you the most.
Do you have internship opportunities for any?
Yeah, we do.
Great.
Yeah, we've been we have interned for social media, for project management, for or just even if you want to get out and learn in the field, like we have internship in the crew side, helping on the jobs and picking out materials, things like that, to just learn. And the more you're around, the more you learn.
Yeah.
Like I still learn all the time, every day. I'd say I learn something new, and things are always adapting and changing. Yeah. So you have to learn how things have been done for 100 years, and then how things are changing every week. So I would say just get out there and care about what you do, and give effort and communication but also customer service.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I don't know, you guys have probably seen this too. It's like, if you just provide good customer service, it's crazy what that will do.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's that easy. Like just treat the clients the way you would want to be treated or expect service.
Right.
And then you'll stand out. So that for sure is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the hardest thing that the robot can't like replace, right? So like,
is human interaction, human connection.
human touch.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you gotta really separate yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
You know,
Anything that we haven't touched on that you would like to bring up that way? So it's been a great podcast, super informative. Very,
yeah.
So,
Good. I'm glad. No, it's fun. Really, it's just I feel like we've covered everything, and the biggest thing for me that I always go back to is just customer service, transparency, just being honest and human with your clients. Like, we make mistakes, and we own it, and we tell the client, and I think they respect that. So the biggest thing is like, nobody's perfect. Own your mistakes, learn from your mistakes, and be transparent, and just keep improving. And people respect that, right? Versus just, it's, pointing fingers, blaming other people, diverting any liability. It's just, red flags. We still see it all the time in the fields.
Yeah.
It's frustrating because at the end of the day, it needs to be a win-win situation. Everyone needs to be involved and take responsibility and ownership and do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that gets muddied up with, profit or the outcome of the project. So that'd be a big thing.
How can someone get a hold of you if they want to start the process, or they're just curious about anything we've talked about?
They can call our office, or they can email me, which is Dominic@DottoCO.com. But yeah, either that or info@DottoCO.com, or our office line. And we were happy to chat and talk about their project, and we try to steer them in the right decision. So, whether they come to us and say, we've turned down jobs where we've recommended people who might be a better fit.
Mm-hmm.
We always like to find what's the best fit for the client, not what's the best fit for us.
For sure.
So we'll, whether it's device, we even, even architects, designers, like they'll call us and say, hey, I got this project. There's this detail. This is what I'm being told. And we try to just be a resource and for everyone. So yeah, very cool. Yeah, thank you. This is fun.
Yeah. Maybe you have some cool projects coming up and come to have you back on, or hoping in the future just update that one.
Yeah, we have a lot going on, some development coming up and cool stuff. So yeah, we're excited. We're always got new fun things going on. So
cool.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
If you like what you hear, please be sure to like and subscribe, learn more about Sonoma County and all that we have to offer here.